What's going on, guys? This is Martyrs Brigade 99 coming to you once again with another session of Dark Souls commentary. Alright, guys, this time around we're going to take it to the painted world. And first off, I'd like to give a shout out to good old Slang Damon. He's actually, I don't want to say he's a subscriber because I don't know if he is. But what I will say is he is a person who has called some of my information into question. Right, which is basically how we found ourselves during these particular matches. If you guys are kind of familiar with the channel, you guys will know that I uploaded a brief video clip with me in the kiln in a 2v1 situation. That video was titled Mages Are Only Dangerous from a Distance. Right? Good old Slang Damon, however, basically made the statement that that was not true. That mages were dangerous, period, and not just from a distance. Not just from a distance, and that all the user had to do was, as they say, predict where your opponent is going to be, and you can be pretty successful at hitting with the sorceries. Well, based upon my own personal experiences, and knowing that what he said is not my reality, I wanted to see if good old Slang Damon has some tricks up the sleeve that he can show off to not only myself, but also other people in the YouTube world. Not only the YouTube world, but also the Dark Souls world. Right? Because I am of the opinion that the Mage class is a underrepresented class. Now, what exactly do I mean by underrepresented? What I mean is, and actually I'm not talking about people who may carry the Moonlight Greatsword. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who are really using the sorcery class as it should be. Casting a lot of sorceries and being effective with it. Now, when you look at the Pyromancer, I see a lot of people using a Pyromancer. And, to a degree, a lot of people are effective with the casts. Also, when I see the Miracle class, I see a lot of people who are effective with those. You notice people who use not only the Wrath of Gods, but they also use the Tranquil Walk, which is successful. Great Magic Barrier, which is wonderful if you're fighting against a Moonlight Greatsword, and a few others out there. But rarely do you see a person who can execute a mage build very successfully. You're just popping off with all kind of not only singular casts, but also combinations of casts. So, based upon his statement, I said to myself, you know what, I have got to get in contact with this particular person. Because in the brigade, one thing that we like to do is we like to share any helpful information with all the Dark Souls playership out there. Because the way I see it, if there's someone out there, at least one person who can demonstrate how they are successful with the sorcerer casts, then perhaps you may give some of the playership out there something to shoot for. You may give them a goal. Right? Because as far as I see it, anyone who is a pure mage, you just basically wasted a build. Or you have created a build strictly for PvE. Because for PvP, based upon my experience, anytime you may hit with a sorcery, it was basically luck. Right? Not some kind of clear, calculated prediction. No, it was basically luck. Maybe you shot off and you hit, and it just so happened to get your opponent at the right time. Right? And I could say that from experience. Because, you'll even notice in this particular video, there will be several occasions where either my homing crystal soul mass or my soul spear or crystal soul spear, they'll hit, and it'll be a successful hit. But did I intend it? No. right? Did I just kind of back off and, you know, kind of cast it and hope that something would hit? Of course, you know. But, you know, apparently there's some guys out there who are, you know, pretty much good on hitting the target. So anyone who may have some type of tips and tricks that will increase the success rate of sorcery hits, we like to give them some exposure. Right? So, enough about that. That was a long enough rant about good old me and slaying Damon. Right? So, based upon that information, good old Slaying Damon gave me a PSN message. You know, I'm kind of on. He was on. He was like, "Hey, dude, you want to check out my casts?" So I'm like, "Hey, why not?" As a matter of fact, I think that'll be a good idea. You know, because hey, I definitely would like to learn something, right? Because as I said before, the way I see it, I mean, sorceries. I mean, it's just almost a waste of time and waste of levels. Right, so we met up originally in Orlando, right? But you guys know how dark Orlando is. It's just full of invasions. So I just suggested, I said, "Hey, dude, why don't we just go take it over to the Painted World?" And here we are. Unfortunately, the Painted World was just about as busy for him as Orlando was, right? So he said, "You know what, dude? What we'll do is we'll just go ahead and have some PvP matches ourselves. But at the same time, since I'm getting a lot of invasions, you know, we can either take turns or you can just go ahead and fight some of the invaders. And then between those matches, we can have some PvP matches on our own." Right? So this is what you'll be seeing. A series of matches against not only random invasions, but also between good old Slaying Damon and I. Right? And hopefully by the end of this, I don't know, roughly 24-25 minute video, you guys perhaps will be able to have learned some new tactics based upon good old Slaying Damon's performance on sorcery casts. Alright, so enough about that. Right. Now, this particular build that I'm using my Battlecaster. And one mistake that I made, and I don't know why I didn't think of it, I really should have used my Great Magic Barrier Miracle. And the reason why, you'll notice that a few of these guys are using the Moonlight Greatsword. Right now, the Great Magic Barrier is one of those miracles that are often forgotten. Right, but we don't forget it in the brigade. Right, I take advantage of all those. Right, Tranquil Walk, Great Magic Barrier. What's that other one? Vow of Silence. I even use that, and it is all based upon the type of people that I have been running into. For example, I'm pretty sure you guys can attest to this, but sometimes when you're in the Berg, I don't know, during a given, you know, number of PvP matches, in many cases you will run into the same groups of people, right? And those groups of people, in most cases, I mean, they're just practicing with one set build. Usually, you know, they don't fight you, then go switch off into another build, fight you, and then go switch off to another build. And a lot of times when I'm in a situation where I'm faced against a lot of Moonlight Greatswords, I'll just go ahead and take advantage of that Great Magic Barrier. Right? Because if you guys are familiar with that miracle, it pretty much nullifies, right, magic attacks. And, you know, actually is 90%. But, I mean, 90%, that's almost nullification. Right? And I think that's very effective. Especially when those guys are trying to, you know, pop you off with the Soul Spear or the Crystal Soul Spear, Homing Crystal Soul Mask, or some of these others. You know, or, I mean, not even that. You know, not even the Moonlight Greatsword, maybe even the Butterfly Horn. You know, but I don't know. I wasn't really thinking of it. I was too busy trying to focus on the casting of good old Slaying Damon. right? So maybe in another video in which I'm using my Battlecaster, you guys will be able to see me maximize those attunement slots, right? Because one thing about my Battlecaster, you know, I don't just use offensive, you know, what you might call offensive magics. I also use support role magics, you know, kind of like some of the ones that I said, you know, the Great Magic Barrier, Tranquil Walk of Peace, sometimes to escape, sometimes to, you know, as you guys know, to keep my opponent in a tight little space. I also use Vile Silence every now and then, depending upon the guys who I'm running into. And this is what makes my Battlecaster, in my opinion, extremely effective. Right? But we don't really need to go over the Battlecaster because I have a first impressions of a new build video where I'm basically talking about that build. Right? Alright. So, this is good old Slaying Damon. He's kind of, well, he's kind of good with those charge attacks, that Moonlight Greatsword. Usually, when I fight people who are using it, they usually don't use that many charge attacks. So quite honestly, he kind of took me off guard a couple times because I'm really not used to people, you know, just kind of hitting that R2. Right? And I think on a number, in a number of occasions, he kind of, well, speak of the devil. He tied me up pretty well. Alright, so we're back at it. So I guess good old Slaying Damon is up there, and we have an invader. So I'm just going to go ahead and try to fight him off until, you know, we kind of get to a standstill. Alright, so let's see, what do we have here? Okay, we have a pyro build with a spear. Okay, that's a potentially deadly combination. Right, because we all know how dangerous those spears can be. And we also know how deadly those pyromancies can be, especially knowing that they hit at a far higher rate than what those ridiculous sorceries do. All right. So one tactic that I am trying to do with these sorceries, I am trying to catch my opponent in the middle of one of their casts, and you know, trying to catch them by hitting them with a soul spear or a crystal soul spear. And actually, he wasn't even close enough to me when he tried to hit me with that great combustion, which is good for me, right? In addition to that good old Tranquil Walk of Peace that helped me tighten him up. All right. So let's see, what do we got here? Hopefully we'll get another invasion, right? And if we don't get another invader, then I'll just go ahead and try to tighten up good old Slaying Damon. Alright. Now, if you guys remember my first impressions of a new build video, you guys will probably say to yourself, hold on, dude. That particular build was only a level 125. How did you get up to 127? Well, you know, I've kind of, sometimes I have a real bad habit of, you know, I'll create a build, you know, I kind of get it to where I want it to be, and then, you know, maybe I might be attracted to a different weapon or something like that. And that's what happened. Because in that first impressions of a new build, you guys would know that my dexterity stopped at 12, right, which enabled me to use the rapier. But I mean, you know, lately, especially with my pyromancy build, I've kind of been digging that Balder sword, right? but the minimum dexterity requirement for that weapon is 14. So this is why I've upgraded my dexterity from 12 to 14, which in result upgraded my soul level from 125 to 127. And actually I won't be going any further than that because I'm good with the Balder Side Sword. I believe I have an enchanted Balder Side Sword in addition to a chaos one. Right, in the event that I run to one of these guys who are using Great Magic Barrier. Right, because you always have to have a plan B. Especially when you're trying to experiment with the Mage class. Or just using intelligence-based weapons. Alright, so here's a match between good old Slaying Damon again. Now, one thing, if you guys will notice, good old Slaying Damon, and I hate that move, but he caught me at the right time. And if you guys notice, once he started hitting me with that charge attack, he really started using it pretty often. So I guess he figured to himself, like, okay, I guess he's really not good with that charge attack, so let me see what I can do with it. Little does he know, however, is the more that you do something, the more your opponent gets to learn your strategies. Alright. Alright. See? Now that right there was no calculation at all. And as a matter of fact, I would say that it was pure luck. Because I knew he would switch off from attacks to castings, attacks to castings, but at the same time, did I know exactly when he would do it? No. Would I consider that a prediction? No. I mean, I think I just kind of stood back and shot at the right moment. Right? Alright. Let's see what good old Slaying Damon's got. He caught me with it again. And see, I hate that move. You guys notice he's been hitting me with that pretty often. And I think that's why he keeps doing it. Right? Because, I mean, hey, if something is working, why not just do it? Right, so I don't fault him for it. Nice. Nice chop to the shoulder blades. Alright, back at it again. So let's see what we can do. Well, I think this particular time I'm going to just go ahead and kind of switch it off to the S stock. Alright, he made a mistake of doing that one too many times. Alright, because now I know to look for it. Alright. And actually, a lot of those moves should really be punished. And the thing about it is, I know that he does that a lot, but, sometimes when you're kind of in the thick of things, maybe you're swinging, maybe you're, just coming out of a swing or putting your shield up or whatever you're doing, sometimes your reaction time is not fast enough to pull off a successful parry. And if you notice, with regard to a lot of those guys who are into the blind parry method, right? And they'll just tell you something like, dude, it's so easy. All you have to do is predict. I don't know about anyone else, but based upon my personal experiences, one of the only moves that you can predict for a blind parry is that roll R1 attack. Right, that you see a lot of people who use, especially those katanas, but a lot of people who use katanas, those great swords, actually a lot of people, period, you'll just kind of notice that, if they think they can't, kind of hit you, they'll just roll into you and then just hit the R1, and those are easily punished, right? And this is why if you're going to use that tactic, you should, try your hardest to be a little unpredictable. In other words, every time you jump, don't attack. Maybe mix it up every second or third. Because if you do it every single time and you're dealing with the parrier, eventually he's going to catch you with the parry. And actually, I caught him a couple times with it in this particular video. Alright. So we got him with a nice backstab. And actually, he just missed that Wrath of the Gods blast. See, there's another instance where actually I didn't predict anything. Right? I mean, I just kind of noticed him at a distance and I shot off, and luckily that time I was successful. I don't know. I've heard some guys say that you can be pretty successful with the sorceries when you take the reticle off. I have yet to see somebody do something like that. As a matter of fact, I even experimented with it with the Homing Crystal Soul Mask cast, because I've heard a lot of people say that, and actually there's one video where I saw somebody do it. But the thing is, with that particular technique, it kind of requires you to you take the reticle off and you cast a Homing Crystal Soul Mask, and you just kind of run almost in figure eights, right? Just going back and forth, and then, kind of like at the last second when your opponent is there, then you hit the reticle on to lock on to your target. But that, in my opinion, that particular method is really not practical. Because when you're engaging in PvP, who's really trying to do figure eights, right? I mean, nobody's trying to do that. Most people are engaging their targets as they should be doing, right? And actually, I tried it for a couple hours one time just to see how practical it would be in actual PvP. I kind of tested that technique out in the Berg, and it just simply was not practical. Now, I do understand what the purpose of that video was that shows that guy doing that. But, I mean, I just think it really wasn't practical, right? So I just kind of went on back to my old tricks, where you just kind of keep the lock on and, kind of cast that way. Alright. And you know what? Speaking of casts, I really think that, I think it's called a Dragon Breath or something like that. I really think that is a sorcery that is a waste of time. Because I don't think I've actually ever hit anybody with that Dragon Breath. I think it's like the Crystal Dragon Breath or something like that. That one that Big Hat Logan kind of casts at you when you're fighting him. That seems to me to be the perfect waste of time. Now, I have seen people hit kind of like in the Dark Root, and sometimes in an Undead Berg, people, they'll kind of lure you to that narrow area, and then, they'll kind of just start spamming the sorceries there. Okay, yeah. But see, the thing with that is, and actually I've heard somebody say that, they were like, oh, dude, it's possible. I mean, just think of these two locations. Okay, I got you on the two locations, dude. But those two locations don't speak for the vast majority of the eligible fighting areas. In other words, those two locations, in my personal opinion, do not justify the existence of... Actually, I'm not going to even say the existence. They don't justify the waste of an entombment slot for the Dragon Breath. Right? Because as I said before, I think I've been hit with it maybe one time. And the time that I was hit with it, I had the Tranquil Wall going on, and I was in a 3v1 situation. So, I mean, people were just popping me off with it. But other than that, I really think that sorceries are PvE items, right? And some of you may reach the same conclusion based upon, the good old performance that we've seen in this video. And actually, I'm not talking about any one performance. I'm saying the collective performance. Because, I mean, even my casts, I wouldn't say that they hit at a high rate. I mean, I got lucky sometimes, right? But, it kind of is what it is. It comes with the territory. Hopefully, with the new DLC, they will do something about these sorceries. Because I think the lesson of this particular video is just further demonstration that the sorceries really need some help if more people are to become interested in this class. Alright guys, that brings us to the end of this particular video. I hope you enjoyed the PvP sessions. Martyr's Brigade is